mic, okay? Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for yet another opportunity to learn again today. We are very sorry for a little hiccups that come up in the timing and the scheduling. Lagos is it's always funny to live in traffic and all of that, bustle here and there. Okay, here we are again today to commence our classes on Jamb Literature UTME. As you all know, the examination is scheduled for a month or two, so I believe we are all set with literary text. Like I said in the last class, in order for you to excel in this examination, it is not there's no gainsay telling you that you will pass without reading the text. So reading the text that are recommended for literature is sacrosanct for us to pass this examination. And so I want to believe we have all done that. That aside, in literature UTME, we are posed with 40 questions in all. And so you ask yourself, what are these 40 questions going to be about? The first thing you need to bear in mind is that the questions are going to be woven around the three genres of literature. And what are the three genres of literature? You have them as poetry, prose, and drama. Okay? And so all the texts we are going to be using, in text and out text, they are all going to be woven around these three genres. That aside, you're also going to be very conversant with your literary terms. When I say literary terms, I mean satire, theme, allegory, um, characterization, rhythm, and all of that. Okay? So I want to believe that a good number of us are conversant with this term. However, we are going to also revisit all these things because I know that it is not easy for some of us to remember all these things we've done in our secondary school, right from SS1 up to E3rd. Okay. Another thing that is very crucial is that we are conversant with the figure of speech. Figure of speech is a very, very important part of literature, such that it comes out in our literary questions, be it in the Shakespeare, be it in the drama, or what have you. Okay? So we move on. Now, today we are going to be focusing this class on a range of consolidated UTME questions that examinations have been setting over time. I wouldn't want this class could have followed the usual method of yearly questioning, sorting questions by years, but we couldn't do that because it happens that literature has the syllabus every 5 years changed. Okay, the literary syllabus is always updated for every 5 years, and you and I believe that this current dispensation is not using the same literary text as the previous dispensation, that is year 2016 to 2020. So you can imagine texts like Lion and the Jewel wasn't used for the last dispensation, but it's used here. The last year they used Harvest of Corruption. If you are still in that, gate of following the past syllabus, you need to do away with that because we are in a new dispensation. So you need to familiarize yourself with works like Miss Thomas' Night Dream, Lion and Jewel that have been mentioned, or what have you. All the texts, okay? Buchi Emecheta, second class citizen, is one of them as well. Okay, and a range of others. All right, so we dive into the questions. Now, starting from the first question, as you can see, don't mind the instruction above, because some of these instructions are typographical. Okay, so let's just focus on the questions. All right, so as we go on with the questions, I would explain the options. Okay, and I would let us know why, if it is A the answer or B the answer, why it is like that. Okay, so pay attention and then follow. All right, so I start. The totality of the effects produced on a reader of a literary work is called what? A, is it tone? B, is it mood? C, is it plot? D, is it diction? Now, you may want to look at this. We are talking about effects on a reader, okay, after encountering a literary work. Is it tone? What is tone? Tone is the voice in which the author of a work produced a literary piece, okay? And so we can't say tone has the same thing as effect on a reader, okay? Now let's look at mood. Mood is the situation, the emotional being of the author or the reader, okay, when you read a literary work. All right, so mood seems to be more likely, but let's look at other options, because this is Jamb, so you don't always go straight to one particular option as the answer, as there may be similar options that may want to override the answer you have in mind. So let's look at plots. Plot. What is plot? Plot is the sequential arrangement of events in a story. Okay, and so we are not talking about the sequence of events here. Rather, we're talking about effects produced on the reader. Okay, so we look at diction. What is diction? Diction is another unique literary element that has to do with the choice of word of the author or a poet. Okay, so if we look at all this, mood seems most likely to be the answer here. So we move to question 2. Question 2 says, an art form in which singers and musicians performs dramatic work combining text and music is called what? Is it a concert? B, is it an opera? C, is it a theater? D, is it a pantomime? Okay, now let's look at the options one after the other. What is a concert? Okay, a concert is it could be a jamboree, okay, it could be a party, okay, and then a party does not necessitate singers and musician performance in a dramatic work. It is talking about drama, not a party, okay. So drama is a rehearsed event, okay. So we cannot say it's concert. Concert is more or less like a spontaneous, presentation by a musician. Okay, we are all familiar with our hip hop musicians when they perform. That is a concert exemplar. Now, opera is the next one. What is an opera? Opera is what we can call a performance, okay, that combines singing and music. Musicians performing as performance and singing. All right. So without any other form of doubt, opera seems to be the answer. But let's look at others too. Theater is the open arena where a dramatic work is being shown. Okay, so theater is not the answer. And pantomime, at the same time, is a mime or an expression, okay, without the use of word. It's a kind of drama anyway. So opera is the answer. All right, so we move to the third one. In literature, local color is universal, restricted, only in English. only America. Now, what is local color? That is the question. Now, local color, when you hear about local color in literature, we're talking about the performance as related to a particular geographical location. Okay, every literary action, every literary technique, every literary what have you that centers around a particular geographical location. Okay, that is what local color entails. For instance, when we're talking about a movie that is acted in a thick Yoruba village, you wouldn't expect them to start speaking English language. Rather, you have them speak Yoruba, and then you see them exemplifying the traits of people in that locality. That is what local color is. And if we look at the options, you can't say it's universal because universal is broad. Okay, universal is global. Okay, restricted is the correct answer here because you can't say it's only English or only America. It's restricted, local. All right, so we move to the fourth one. A clue to an event that will happen later in a work of art is it flashback? Is it foreshadowing? Is it premonition? Is it digression? Now let's look at the options. First, we have flashback. What is the flashback? Flashback is also a clue. Rather, we'll say a look back into past action, bringing the past into the present, okay, to help unravel a particular situation in a story or a drama, okay. So, flashback is looking into the past. So, talking about the question is talking about the future. So flashback cannot be the answer. Yes, they ask what foreshadowing means. Foreshadowing is more or less like the opposite of flashback. Foreshadowing gives an insight to what is about to happen later in a drama. It gives us an inclination to what is going to happen. Okay. Now, premonition is what we call a prophecy. Yes, when there's a premonition, it's like a prophecy into what is going to happen in the future. And then digression. Digression is when you deviate, okay, from a particular course of action or thought. All right, so if we look at all this, you can see that premonition is the most correct option here. So premonition it is. We move to the fifth one. Comedy of low kind in which believability is sacrificed for the main objective of exciting laugh is called what? Comedy of low kind in which believability is sacrificed for the main objective of exciting laugh is called what? A, is it farce? B, is it comedy? C, is it melodrama? D, is it tragicomedy? Excuse me. Okay, now let's take them one after the other. Farce is a kind of comedy, all right? A short comedy, a short play, okay, that is meant to excite laughter. Now, comedy is a general classification for drama kind. Drama is classified mainly into two different kinds: the comedy and tragedy, sorry, and the comedy. Before you have other kinds, all right. So, what is a comedy? Comedy is a drama that ends on a start on a good note and ends on a good note. Okay, unlike tragedy that may start on a good note or end on a bad note. Okay, sad note. Now, melodrama is another kind of drama. It is a kind of comedy. Okay, a melodrama is meant to, excite laughter. Okay, out of the major objective or major focus of the story. Okay, so melodrama seems to be it. Tragicomedy is a mixture of both tragedy and comedy. Tragedy, is a story that ends badly or on a sad note. Comedy ends on a good note. So when you have a tragicomedy situation, the story either starts on a bad note and end on a good note, or start on a bad note and end on a good note, vice versa. All right. So the sixth one, I am on the world's extreme corner. Now this is a question on Kofi Awuno's Song of Sorrow. It says, the speaker in the lines above is, yes, indifferent, sad, hungry, or in pain. Now, this is an extract, okay, from Kofi Awuno's Song of Sorrow. If we have seen the poem before, we can see that that poem is more or less like an elegy or a dirge, because it tends to mourn. It's a sorrowful poem, as the title entails. So the persona in that poem was grieving all through. Okay, and so let's look at the option. Which of these options seem to control with that theme? Okay, the general theme in the poem. Is it indifference? No. Sad? Likely. Hungry? Likely as well. In pain? Likely. Okay, I am on the world's extreme corner. If we look at all this, in pain, no, can never be it. Okay, because the persona is just mourning. It's just you know he's just in a mourning situation. He's not in pain. Okay, he's not, nothing really happened to him. However, he's mourning his losses. Okay, so in pain is not the answer. Hungry, no, he's not really. He's not angry. Angry seem more like it, but there's an option that better captures the situation here, which is sad. When you're mourning, when you're grieving, you are in a sad mood. So sadness is the right answer here. We move to the seventh one. Then I sat myself quiet for 45 turbulent years. I waited, sapped, famished, for love to wake from a sickly slumber. The figure of speech in the line above, in the last line above, is what? Now let's look at the last line. For love to wake from a sickly slumber. Yes. Figure of speech. Assonance. A. B. Personification. C. Metaphor. D. Oxymoron. Now let's look at them one after the other. Assonance, as we all know, uh, excuse me, is an interval, okay, of vowel sounds. Interval of vowel sounds in a literary line. Okay, so do we have a repetition of vowel sounding in the line? No. Personification is the second one. Personification is a figure of speech that gives human attribute to a non-human entity. Okay? Metaphor is a figure of speech that makes direct comparison without the use of like or as. There's no comparison here. Okay? So oxymoron is another one. Oxymoron is a figure of speech that places two opposite ideas side by side, like saying painful pleasure, okay, sorrowful tears. That is oxymoron for you. Okay, now if we look at all these options, we can see that the the word or the line that ended this poem is personifying something, which is love. For love to wake, I mean, it's human beings or animals, living things that can wake up. All right. So love cannot be waking up as an entity. So personification is the right figure of speech in this regard. All right. The next one, we have rain but aids to plant. We have sun but we kill our own sons with hurtful glee. The poet's feeling can be described as that of what? Okay. Disappointment, indifference, anxiety, joy. Which one is it? Now, if we look at this, let's look at the lines again. We have rain but hates to plants. We have the heat and the glory of the rainbow, but we kill our own with artful glee. I think the clue to the answer is on the last line. Okay, but we kill our own sons with artful glee. I think it's indifference, all right? Because here there's no willingness to take or do something. So we can't say it is disappointment, anxiety, nor joy. Rather, indifference is what captures the sense here. Okay? Now we move to the next one. When I remember my gone days, I think how evening follow morning. So many I loved were not yet dead. So may I love not yet born. The period of life the poet has arrived is what? Now we're looking at um, there are two particular period of day that is mentioned here, and this is a metaphor. Okay, it's a metaphorical expression making reference to the period of time in one's life. Morning, we can all agree that is the infancy period, days of innocence. All right. We have evening as well. Evening is yes, evening is the later days of man or a living being. Okay, that is your older age. So if we look at it, we are looking at so many I love were not yet dead. Okay, so may I love not yet unborn. We're looking at something in between morning and evening, and then we are going to conclude that it is the middle age. Okay, not adolescence. Adolescence is when you're growing up. Old age is the evening part of days. Early childhood is your morning. Okay, so middle age is it is all right. So interpretation is very, very, very important here. So for those of us that don't know how to interpret meaning, it is high time we start learning interpretation. There are two dimensions anyway. We have the literal dimension of meaning, and we have figurative dimension of meaning. I'm going to take out my time to talk about that in our next meeting. I assure you that. Okay, so we move to the next one. Where is the next slide? Okay, here we are. Behold her, single in the field, you solitary island lass, reaping and singing by yourself. Oh, listen, for the value profound is overflowing with the sound. This is from William Wordsworth, The Solitary Reaper. The lines above constitute words. Okay, is it an apostrophe? Is it an aside? Is it an inferior monologue? Is it a soliloquy? Now, if we look at it without wasting our time, this is a poem, okay? And the options in the questions, and the question here is it poses us with literary and dramatic elements. In fact, without mincing words, A is the answer because the other elements that are in the options are dramatic elements aside inferior monologue, soliloquy, they are drama. Okay? Neither of them is poetic. Now, A is the answer, and I will explain further by telling us why A apostrophe is the answer. Apostrophe is a figure of speech that address a non-living entity like an idea as if it exists, okay, as if it lives, it has a breath. Behold her, single in the field, you solitary island lass. You see, an address to an island, okay. So you can't address something that is not living. Rather, you address something that has a breath in it. All right. So move to the next one. Question 11. An art that is both literary and theatrical is called what? Is it a prosody? Is it a prose? Is it drama? Is it a poem? Without wasting our time, we can see that all the options here uh, seems to be unlikely other than drama, because drama is literary and theatrical. You don't perform a poem neither do you perform a prose. However, you can have a prose acted as a motion picture in a movie, all right, not in a theater, all right. So drama is the right answer. Prosody is a poetic element, all right. So we move to the 12th question. I'm going to take a peek. Do we have any learner with us? Okay, nobody. All right. So we move to the 12th question. The speech made by a character to himself on stage is called what? Is he an epilogue? Is he a monologue? Is he an aside? Is he a soliloquy? Now, let's look at the options. An epilogue, what is an epilogue? An epilogue is a dramatic element, okay, or um, a literary element, okay, and it's the little statements you see, you come across before you start reading a literary work. It is more or less like an abstract, okay, to a literary text. It just gives you a projection to what the um, you know the text is about. Okay, so epilogue is out of it. Monologue. What is a monologue? Monologue is a single speaker when a single character speaks, okay, on a stage. All right, it's likely to be the answer, but let's look at other options. Like I told us, don't always be conclusive or too fast in picking our answers, because this is UTME. It's a different ball game to what we used to do in our schools. All right, now let's look at aside. What is an aside? Aside is also is a kind of monologue. All right. You see why I said you shouldn't quickly pick uh, your answer without looking at other options. Soliloquy, in the same vein, is also a kind of monologue. All right. Now let's look at these two and see what differentiates them from a monologue. An aside is a a speech, okay, given by a character on stage without the knowledge of other characters on stage. So it speaks, okay, not backing the other characters with the consent uh, or consciousness of the audience, all right? Or the audience perceive or hear what the character says or do, but the other characters unawares. All right. Now, soliloquy is another one. Soliloquy is a kind of monologue, but soliloquy in soliloquy, the character speaks to himself. He doesn't speak to anybody. He soliloquizes. He speaks to himself. He ruminates on a particular thought. Okay. For instance, when a, a character comes to a consciousness of what he has been doing wrong all along, and then starts pondering that, if I had done this way, if I've done it that way, it could have things could have turned out better, all right, other than going south. Okay, so looking at the options on WhatsApp, without any other form of that, aside is the right answer, okay, because it is a speech made by a character to himself. Oh my goodness. Let's look at that again. It can't be aside, please. Soliloquy to himself, aside to himself and the characters. I beg your pardon on that. Soliloquy is correct. All right. So 13. Excuse me. 13. In literature, a round character is associated with. Oh, this is getting interesting. This is characterization. For those of you that don't know that actors or characters are in different kinds. They have different kinds, okay, or classification. You need to get familiarized with your kind of characters now, characterization. And so we have something like major and minor characters. Among these two classifications, you also have what we call dynamic character. You have a rank character. You have a flat character. You have an archetype. And you have every other kind too. So, but the two major kinds are the flat character and the round character. What is a round character? A round character is a dynamic character, okay? It changes with the events in the story. All right. So when we look at the options, We can see that option A captures this sense, a change and growth. All right. So we move to the next one. Question 14. In a narrative poem, the post attempts the in a narrative poem, the post attempts to, my goodness, this is supposed to be a poem. It's a typographical. The poem or the poet, yes, I think it's the poet that I meant to type there. The poet attempts to A. Summarize a story, B. Preach a sermon, C. Describe a place, D. Tell a story. Yes, some poems tells a story, okay, and that is narrative poems. For instance, the Iliad, the Proud King. All right, the Iliad is by Homer, or the Odyssey tells a story, a mythic story. Likewise, William, what's his name again? Um, yes, the Proud King, William Morris. Yes, it's a narrative poem. In fact, narrative poems are also epic poem. All right, so we can take that to the bank. The next one, question 15. The continuation of meaning without pause from one line to the next is what? A, is it an enchantment? B, is it synecdoche? C, is it alliteration? D, melodrama. Now let's look at this. We're talking about poetic elements. Yes. Continuation of meaning without a pause into another line. Poetry, unlike drama, is categorized into lineation and stanzization. You partition poetry into lines and stanzas, while you partition poems, I mean, drama into acts and scenes. Okay, prose, on the other hand, is partitioned into chapters. Okay, so if we are talking about the lineation of poetry, there is a tendency for an idea in a particular line to overflow. Okay, there's a tendency for a particular line to, you know, flow into another line. That is what we call enjambment in literature. All right. So without wasting our time, enjambment is what we have as an answer. And another name for enjambment is what we call run-on lines. Okay, because there is an overflow or short of word now. Overflow still seems to capture the intent here, okay, into another line. All right, 16. Okay, the next one is okay, my slide is being funny. Okay, slide 16. What is happening here? The plot of a story generally refers to the, okay, before we look at the options, I'm going to rejog our memory into what plot is. When we say plot, plot means the sequential arrangement of events, the order that events take in a story. Okay, so we look at the options. It refers to the way in which the writer begins the story. Could that be correct? Let's look at other ones. Intrigue made by a character against the hero. Okay, the way the writer ends the story. Mhm. The way in which the events of the story are organized. Yes, D is the answer without any doubt. 17. A didactic piece is one in which the writer, is it teaches human lessons? B, is it dictates to the reader? C, is it condemns human foibles? D, is it discusses that themes? Didactic piece. Now, when we say didactic piece, a poem or a story that teaches moral lesson, okay, that is didactic. All right. So A is the answer without being without mincing words. All right. 18. What basically distinguish Literature. Hello. Hello, Heron. Hello. Hello, Bridget. Okay, I think I am still connected. I assume I'm still connected. Heron, are you there? Okay, I will continue. What basically distinguish literature from other disciplines? A. Communication of idea. B. Use of creative imagination. C. Portrayal of places. D. Exposition of human experience. Yes. Now this is interesting. If let's say if any of us fail this kind of question, then it means that we haven't really been studying literature, because literature itself is a reflection of the society. It reflects everything about our immediate world and the world beyond. Okay, so if we look at the options, we say communication of idea, no. Use of creative imagination, seems likely. A portrayal of places, no. Exposition of human experience, yes, that is it. 19. A reward or punishment a character receives in a literary work is called what? A. Is it point of attack? B. Is it poetic justice? C. Is it popular outcry? D. Is it poetic license? Okay, I'll pick out two options here that seems to be the correct one. Poetic justice, poetic license. Now I'm going to explain what these two options mean. Poetic justice in literature is actually what we call repercussion, or should we say a consequence of an action. Okay, the consequence of an action. What you get as consequence for what you do. All right. While poetic license is the freedom in the use of language, okay, in the way a poem chose to do. All right. So if we look at these two, we see that poetic justice captures that sense of reward or punishment as a consequence for an action. So we move to the next one. In literary criticism, the vocabulary or language used by a writer is generally known as what? A. Is it figure of speech? B. Is it diction? C. Is it expression? D. Is it rhythm? We look at the question again. In literary criticism, the vocabulary or language used by a writer is generally known as what? Now we're talking about vocabulary or language, otherwise known as choice of words. Okay, choice of language. All right. So diction, diction captures that definition. The choice of words an author or a poet uses in rendering their literary piece. That is what diction is. Okay, so it's neither figure of speech nor others. Now we move to the next one. Okay, this is an excerpt. Okay, I want to believe that we are familiar with what an excerpt is now. An excerpt is like an extract from a larger body of work. All right, we'll be seeing all of that. You'll be seeing most of them in your literary questions. It could be in form of a prose, it could be in form of a poetry. All right. Weep not, child, weep not, my darling. With these kisses, let me remove your tears. The ravening clouds shall no longer be victorious. They shall no longer possess the sky. Wow, what an interesting poetic rendition. A, is it pessimistic? B, is it optimistic? C, is it helpless? D, is it carefree? Now let's look at it. What is the mood, or what is the emotion, okay, being expressed in these lines? Is it pessimistic? We know that when someone is pessimistic, they are hopeless of the future. They don't have a, a you know a good premonition. All right. Now, the second option, optimistic. When you're optimistic, you are now. We look at carefree. When you are carefree, you are more or less like being very careful, fastidious. All right. Weep not, child, weep not, my darling. With these kisses, let me remove your tears. The ravening clouds shall no longer be victorious. They shall no longer possess the sky. Optimistic it is. Okay. You are hopeful of a better tomorrow. 22. There's an issue with the numbering here. Okay, so let's just play along and assume this is 22. 22, yes. You see that bends at a rich end. Ha. Oh, let me take that again. You see that bends at a rich end. Ha. That motor car is motor car. It belongs to the Minister for Fairness, who yesterday was loaded with a doctorate at Makerere with whiskey, and I don't know what plus. I hear the literate thighs of an undergraduate from Theoluzuka, the Motuka. The except above can be described as what? A, is it sad? B, is it humorous? C, is it strange? D, is it serious? Now, if we look at this extracts or excerpts, we can tell that this is a satire. We know what satire is. A satire uses humor, all right, to correct ills or criticize an unfair situation. All right. So if we look at this, we can see that everything about it is humorous. It intends to invoke laughter. All right. So B says it. We move to the next one. Question 23. Also an excerpt from Tennyson, Lord Alfred Tennyson's Ulysses. Ulysses is a classical poem. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the birth of all the western stars until I die. I'll take that again. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the birth of all western stars until I die. From the excerpt above, the persona does not intend to A. Is he undertake dangerous adventure? B. Stop traveling? C. Die? D. Travel at night? Now, if we look at the lines, we can see that it is talking about journey. To sail. Sailing is, traveling by the sea. Sail beyond the sunset and the bars of all the western stars until I die. This person is someone that enjoys, sailing, all right, traveling, all right. So if we look at this, the options: undertake dangerous adventure, stop traveling, die, travel at night. Certainly undertake dangerous adventure, all right, because in those days, some of these travelers, some of these sailors or seamen, they travel to places yet unknown. Just like Christopher Columbus, who discovered America, he never knew what he would find on his route to the Indian Ocean. Okay, and he landed in America because they never knew that there is a body of people existing in that continent, and so they named it Newfoundland, America, as you all know. Okay, so undertake dangerous adventure. Certainly the correct answer here. So we move to the next one. Oh my! Okay, there seems to be a mistake um, in the answer. If we look at the question, it says the persona does not intend. So I just committed that blunder that I've been warning us not to commit. You need to look at the questions, all right? The question says, what does it not intend to do? Okay, so undertaking dangerous adventure is one of the things he wants to do or he wishes to do. So if we look at it again, we'll see that he intends not to stop traveling. Okay, so B is our answer. All right, so I believe we are together now. All right, 24. And my children left their peace. Okay, I think I'm too fast with this. I need to take it slow. All right. Hello. Are we together? All right. I believe we are. And my children left their peaceful nakedness for the uniform of iron and blood. This is from David Diop, loser of everything. David Diop is a Senegalese poet. In the lines above, the imagery depicts a displacement of words. And my children left their peaceful naked for the uniform of iron and blood. This is visual um, image of the sites. Okay, so A, is it village life by barrack life, nature by science, innocence by violence, the natural by the artificial. Okay, um, let's see if we can interpret the sense of meaning the poet is trying to convey here. And my children left the peaceful nakedness for the uniform of iron and blood. Now, in order for us to understand the correct answer to this, we need to consider the setting of this poem. Now, what is setting in literature? Setting has to do with the time and place and era in which a literary text is set. Okay, now if we consider this, let's look at the time of the story or the era in which this era or a little bit after the colonial era. Okay, yes, colonial or pre-colonial. So I beg your pardon, it should be colonial or pre-colonial, all right? Because it's talking about nakedness, peaceful nakedness. That is during the time when Africa is still in the natural form. Okay, the primitive days of Africa before the coming of the Western colonizers. All right. So if we look at the options, the village life by barrack life, no, it can be because it's talking about peaceful nakedness for the uniform of iron and blood. Okay. Nature by science, no. Innocence by violence, yes, this is correct because peaceful nakedness is gearing towards innocence. All right. When we before the coming of the white men or the Western colonizers, Africans are very, very trustworthy among themselves. They were in the state of innocence, all right? And then when the white men came, they they bring in slavery, all right? They made us sell ourselves to the white men, and then there goes colonization and every other thing. So there are certain sort of resistance. That is what iron and blood, seems to point out. So innocence by violence it is. 25. Now we have come to you and make you find those you have loved and respected mock you to your face. This is from Chrissy Brew. Lest should lest we should be the last. Kosibri is a Ghanaian poet. The lines above convey the feeling of is it satisfaction? Is it hope? Is it disappointment? Is it fear? Take that again. Now we have come to you and are amazed to find those you have loved and respected mock you to your face. Harper. This is certainly disappointment. Okay, there is a sense of disappointment here when it's a situation whereby what you expected is not what you see. Okay, all right. So we move to the next one. 26. The times has come when I can fool myself no more. I am no man, Sadiku. My goodness, this is Wole Soyinka, Lion and the Jewel. Okay, who is talking here? This is Okay, I take that again. The times has come when I can fool myself no more. I am no man, Sadiku. My manhood ended near a week ago. So, for those of us that have read The Lion and the Jewel, we can understand the intention of Baroka here. So, let's look at the question. The lines above suggest that the speaker is what? A, has become impotent. B, loves women. C, is tired of marriage. D, is disgusted with life. Okay, this is quite crucial because um, it tends to look at the intention of Baroka here. You know, Sadiku is Baroka's first wife, okay? And then Sidi happens to be the Jew, okay, whom Baroka wants to take as a new wife amidst the whole, you know, thing going on in the village. Sidi and Lakunle, all right, still not agreeing with each other due to disagreement in the concept of bride price. All right, Lakunle refuses to pay Sidi's bride price, and so Sidi has refused to yield to Lakunle's urgence. All right, and then Baroka seems to, you know, wants the jewel for herself. And so, in order to do this, he decided to pretend, okay, to Sadiku that he has lost his manhood. All right. And so, women, one thing is, one thing is common with women, which is gossip. Okay. Um, Gossip is what Baroka used to, lure Sidi to his court, and then Sidi coming in the knowledge, okay, perception that the king has lost his mouth, so he cannot do anything. All right, and then when he came, lo and behold, the lion pounced on her. So if we look at the option, the lines above suggest that the speaker has become impotent is certainly the correct answer. So we move to 27. In those days, when civilization kicks us in the face, when holy water slaps our clinging brows, the vultures built in the shadow of the phalanx. This is from David Job. The dominant literary device used in the lines above is that of what? The easy personification. Okay, the lines again. In those days, when civilization kicked us in the face, when holy water slapped our clinging bowels, the vultures built in the shadow of the phalanx. Now, if we look at this, we can see that something is dominant. That is a given of human attribute to civilization. When civilization kicked us in the face. So, without any doubt, personification is the answer to this. All right. Um, the, the next question: the leaves are withered. The leaves are withered. Roses fold and shrink. Dog, the panting athlete, shows his tongue jawed. A shadow flees nude under and crack. Not wrinkle and crack. From W. Cameron. Poems in four parts. The one dominant image presented in the lines above is that of what? Is it death? Is it summer? Is it tiredness? Is it spent life? The leaves are withered roses, fold and shrunk talk. The panting athlete shows his strong jawed. A shadow flees nude under and crack. Could we say death? No, because we're looking at imagery. Okay? Roses fold, leaves withered. What happens? When does this kind of things happen? Summer. Yes, that is when, leaves dry up. The summer, they dry up and they fall to die. Okay? So you can't say it's death. Neither can you say it's tiredness or spend life. Summer it is. Okay? So we move to the next one. When I remember my when I remember bygone days, I think how evening follows morning. So many I loved were not yet dead. So many I love, not yet dead, not yet born. Okay? The period of life the poet has arrived at is what? Okay, I think we've taken this question before. So we skip it. Middle age is the answer to this. All right. So we move to the next one. Behold her, single in the field, you solitary island, lass, reaping and singing by herself. Oh, listen, this is a repetition again. This is an apostrophe. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is a new one. Blue. Okay, blue Peter on empty ships, all Peters with pethered out desires. It can be deduced from the lines above in our DOT's ambush that the Peters are what? A. Is it disappointed? B. The betrayed? C. Lazy? D. Greedy? Now, there's a play on word here, what we call pun in literature. Blue Peter on empty ships, all Peters with petered out desires. Now, um, the feeling here conveyed here is certainly um, disappointed. Okay, it's disappointed. All right, because when something peters out, it's it disappoints. All right, so there are two meanings here, or there are two idea here. Peter as a person or as a people, then petered out, like going out. All right, disappointed. Okay, we'll move to the next one. The repetition of a constant sound in quick succession for sound effect is what? A is the alliteration, B pun, C onomatopoeia, D assonance. Now let's look at this question. Repetition of a consonant sound in quick succession for sound effect. This is a literary device as well as a figure of speech. Okay, is it alliteration? Is it pun? Is it onomatopoeia? Is it assonance? Now, by definition, we know that alliteration is a succession or repetition of consonant sound in literary lines. Okay, so alliteration seems to be the answer. But let's look at the other options and see if there's any similar one. Pun is a play on words, just like I show us in the previous question. Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is the use of sound to suggest meaning. All right. So it's also likely. But let's look at every other option before we conclude. Assonance. Assonance is a repetition of succession of vowel sounds, okay, in a literary line. Okay, so pen is out of it. Alliteration, onomatopoeia, assonance. Yes. Which one deals with consonant sounding? Consonant sounding. Alliteration it is. Okay. So we move to the next one. A play in which the acts succeed one another without probable or necessary sequence is what? Now this is plot. Okay, this is plot. Plot is a one literary characteristic that is, you know, common to the three genre of literature because it talks about sequence of events. Okay, is it episodic? We can submit that this is kind uh, plot kind classification. Now, is it episodic? Is it simple? Is it linear? Is it convoluted? Now, as suggested, plot is, or as averred before, the plot is a sequence of action or sequence of events in a story. Okay, it could follow a linear sequence. All right, and they could follow a convoluted sequence. Now, when there is a convolution of sequence, it is a complex, a complex sequence in the flow of events in an action. So, option D it is. So we move to the next one. The next one, a technique by which a previous scene or action can be recalled in a play to shed light on the present action is called what? A technique by which a previous scene or action can be recalled in a play to shed light on the present action is what? A. Climax. B. Flashback. C. Interlude. D. Catharsis. Like I said, please ignore the numbering of these slides, okay? Um, is it climax? How? What is climax? Climax is the peak of action, a peak of action in the plot. All right, that's the highest stage of tension. All right, in a literary work. Okay, so can it be climax? No. Flashback. Yes, flashback is bringing back the past to the present, all right, in order to unravel the situation. So, flashback is the correct answer, all right, without missing word. Catharsis is a purgation, okay, of emotion in a tragedy or a tragic work, all right. So, we move to 14, or the next question. Criticism is a literary activity which seeks to A. Is it find faults in a literary work? B. Is it analyze and evaluate a literary work? C. Is it compare and contrast novels? D. Is it discover the beauty of a literary work? Yes, criticism in a literary work or literary activity. It can be finding fault, okay? Criticism doesn't find fault in literature. B. Analyze and evaluate a literary work. Certainly, that is what it does. It's not comparing and contrasting novels, because if we go for that, it will not be all encompassing, because literary activity is not just for novels but for other genres too. If we say discover the beauty of a literary work, it seems likely to be it too. But analyze and evaluate, it's a better option. All right. Don't forget, I told us that there are always a tendency for us to have options that seem to be similar, okay, in correctness. So we go for the one that best, capture the situation. So we move to the next question. Yeah. Okay. A situation where an actor addresses the audience without the other actors hearing him is called what? A. Is it a soliloquy? B. Is it a chorus? C. Is it an aside? D. Is it a solo? Yes. I take us back to when I defined uh, kinds of monologue. Excuse me. Now, a situation where an actor addresses the audience without the other actors hearing him is called soliloquy, chorus, aside, solo. Okay, a soliloquy, like I told us, is a situation where a singular character alone, not with other characters on stage, okay, pondering, ruminating, okay, in what should have happened or what should have not, okay, talking to himself, hmm, is soliloquy. All right, so no, um, yes, there's no hearing or the other actors on stage. There's no presence of the other actors on stage. All right. Chorus is a dramatic element, okay, whereby music, okay, or a group or body of singers, all right, help to foster the plot of a story. Okay, aside, yes, the answer is between soliloquy and aside, because solo is just when somebody sings alone, or yes, sings alone or acts alone. All right, and it doesn't capture the sense here. We're looking at speech made by an actor for the audience without the knowledge of the co-actors on stage. So aside, what does aside says? Aside is speaking to the audience with the presence of the other characters on stage without their knowledge. All right. So aside is the correct answer to this. Please don't let us forget the difference between these two things, soliloquy and aside. Soliloquy speaks to himself, all right, without the presence of other authors. Aside, the character speaks to himself with the knowledge of the audience and the presence of other characters on stage. Okay, so the next one, a band of singers and dancers in drama who act as a link between the play and the audience is called what? Is it the chorus? Is it a clown? Is it playwright? Is it cast? Now, chorus, yes, captures the sense. Band of singers and dancers in drama, all right, who act as a link between the play. For those of us that are familiar with Soyinka plays, perhaps Lana the Jewel, I think there is a chorus there. Not certain though, but for play like the uh, Death and the King's Man, which is a play that won Wole Soyinka is Nobel laureate, we can see a very good number of choruses in that play. All right. So chorus is a band of singers and dancers and drama who act as a link between the play and the audience. All right. What chorus actually do is that it helps the audience to understand the, helps the audience to understand the plot of the story better. Okay? Clown is just a jester, someone who makes, who brings, what will I call it? Um, a relief, okay, in a tragic situation, all right, to the audience, all right? That is what clowns do. Then playwright is a dramatic person, sorry, a playwright is a dramatist, the person that writes a play, all right? Then cast is the number of people, the entire collection of people that participate in a dramatic work. Now, I would want to intimate us with this pattern to take cast for um, characterization, or yes, characterization. Cast is a different thing from characterization. All right, characterization talks about the people that acted in the story, the dramatic persona, yes, that be it a major or a minor actor, uh, falls under characterization. But when you say cast, you're talking about both the actor, the playwright, the director, the producer, the music, everything. Okay, that involves even properties or props. Okay, you're talking about cast and costume as well. All right, we're looking at a character whose name is used as the title of the text is what? Yes, this is a crucial one. Some of us have come across a novel or a play, okay, wherein an actor or a character in the story is the same as the name the text or the, the novel or the play bears. Okay, for instance, Othello. Yes, Othello is a very good example. Okay, on Hamlet, a range of them like that. All right, they are what we call eponymous characters. All right, a story where you have the the protagonist or the chief character, the name of the story, okay, is what we call an characterization. Macbeth is another good example. We'll talk about the liberty the poets take with language, okay, without restriction. All right, poets are they have that liberty to, you know, deviate from grammatical, what have you, from conventions. All right, grammatical conventions, I say. All right, option B is our answer. We move to the next one. A form of writing in which the poet writes with nostalgia about simple village life is what? Nostalgia, we know that is the feeling of the past, okay? A reminiscence, joy, okay? Or even drama. Romance is not limited to poem, okay? So romance cannot be the answer. Romance is a genre of adventurous work, all right? Now, epic, yes, I've talked about this earlier. Don't capture that sense. Epic is a poem, a lengthy or elaborate poem. All right, that's, yes, it's almost often than more often than not a narrative. All right, it talks about, it could be a mythic experience, could be a legend, okay, could be anything, but it tells a story, all right, of great events in the past. Okay, examples I made example with the in discussion. We get to understand this poems better. Discussion in terms of characterization, thematization, motif, setting, and what have you. Okay, have no reason to regret in our meetings going forward. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. I remain Tutor Paul. Okay.